This is part 5 of our lesson on rational functions and asymptotes. So for this one, it says, for each of the equations listed below, determine the equations of the asymptotes. Determine which graph best represents each function and explain in words how you made your choice. So there are 3 equations on the side here. And then at the bottom, there are 3 graphs. And it is your job to pick which graph you think matches which equation. So if you are feeling confident in your skills to find vertical, horizontal, and oblique asymptotes from the previous part of the lesson, I would recommend you try these questions on your own. So pause the video, try them on your own, and then check in to see what answers I got. Otherwise, I am going to work through them, but if you feel like you can do it, I would strongly recommend trying the questions yourself first. Okay, so if I'm trying to find vertical asymptotes, I would start with the denominator, and I would look at what makes that denominator 0. So there's a big box here for us to do our work. So I'm going to take my denominator of 2x squared minus 8 and set that equal to 0 and solve. So I'm going to add 8 to both sides to get 2x squared equals 4. Nope. That was my brain doing the math for me. Okay, I'm going to get 8, and then I'm going to divide by 2, which gives me 4. So x squared equals 4, and then I'm going to square root, and when we square root, we get a positive and a negative answer. So I get the plus and minus square root of 4, which is plus and minus 2. So there are 2 asymptotes, one at positive 2 and one at negative 2. Okay, up next, horizontal and oblique asymptotes. In order to find the horizontal or oblique, I need to do some division, or at least think about the division. So I have x cubed plus 2x squared minus 3x divided by 2x squared minus 8. I notice that the degree on the top is bigger than the degree on the bottom, which means it's not going to be horizontal. It is going to be oblique. In order to get the equation of the oblique asymptote, I need to do some division. And this one is going to be a little awkward because of the numbers. So I want to know, how many times does 2x squared minus 8? Now, I notice that the x term is missing, so I am going to put in a 0 for that. You don't have to, but it helps me keep everything all lined up. It bugs me when they're not all nice and lined up. And then that's minus 8. So I want to know how many times does that go into x cubed plus 2x squared minus 3x. I also notice this doesn't have a number, so I'm going to add the 0 on the end as a placeholder. You don't have to. It's a choice. Okay. So I did warn that these numbers were going to be a little awkward. So I need to turn a 2x squared into an x cubed. So the exponent part from an x squared to an x cubed tells me I need to multiply by x. The tricky part is the coefficient. To go from a 2 to a 1, I have 2 choices. I can either multiply by a half, or I could do its decimal equivalent and multiply by 0.5. I think I might do 0.5. You can do a half if you're feeling fancy. So 2 times a half, or 0.5, gives me 1x cubed. 0 times anything is 0. And x times x is x squared. Negative 8 times 0.5 is negative 4. And then x. Okay, so I'm going to subtract. X cubed minus x cubed is 0. 2 take away 0 is 2x squared. 3 take away negative 4 is positive 1x. And 0 take away nothing is 0. All right, how do I turn a 2x squared into a 2x squared? We multiply by 1. So 2x squared times 1 is 2x squared. 0 times 1 is 0x. And negative 8 times 1 is negative 8. 2x squared, take away 2x squared is 0. 1 take away 0 is 1x. And 0 take away -8 is positive 8. So our asymptote is not 1x plus 8. It's the 0.5x plus 1. So my oblique asymptote is y equals 0.5, or if you want to be fancier, 1/2 would look nice, x plus 1. Okay, is there a graph down at the bottom that matches that it has a vertical asymptote at 2 and -2 and an oblique asymptote? Well, this one has a horizontal asymptote, so it's not this one. This one has an oblique asymptote, but so does this one. But this one also has the vertical asymptotes at -2 and +2. So I think this one is B. So I'm going to cross it off so that I know that I've used it. I'm going to say my matching graph I believe to be B. My reasoning, it has vertical asymptotes at 2 and -2, and also has an oblique asymptote. So it has vertical asymptotes at, I should have said x equals 2 and x equals -2, and also has an oblique asymptote. Okay, if I look at the next one, same idea. We're looking for asymptotes. So I'm going to start with vertical asymptotes. I'm going to start with x squared plus 4, the denominator. What makes that equal 0? Well, if I subtract 4, I get x squared equals -4. I feel like we're going to have a problem here. And then I do the square root plus and minus of -4. Can I take the square root of -4? No, I cannot. So this has no solution, which means vertical asymptotes, there are none. We don't have any. There's nothing that makes my denominator 0. Okay, when I go to do the horizontal and oblique, I can do a quick scan here. The degree on the top is bigger than the degree on the bottom, which means it's going to be oblique. So I know it's not horizontal. So I'm going to divide x squared plus 4. So x squared, once again, that middle term is missing. So I'm going to put a 0x. I didn't color code it. I'm just writing it in blue. And then plus 4. How many times does that go into x cubed minus x squared minus 6x? And then I am going to put a plus 0 on the end since we don't have a number. How do I turn an x squared into an x cubed? I multiply by x. So I get x cubed plus 0x squared plus 4x. I'm going to subtract. X cubed take away x cubed is 0. Negative x squared minus 0 is negative x squared. Negative 6 minus 4 is negative 10x. And then 0 take away nothing is 0. All right, how do I turn an x squared into a negative x squared? We multiply by -1. So I get negative x squared. And then minus 0x. Doesn't really matter. It's still a 0. And then minus 4. The x squareds cancel out. Negative 10 take away 0 is negative 10x. And 0 take away -4 is positive 4. I cannot turn an x squared into an x, so I know that I'm done. My asymptote comes from the quotient, which is on the side here, so it's just x minus 1. So y equals x minus 1. So this has no vertical asymptotes and an oblique asymptote. So I know it's not B. We've already figured out B. So my choices are A and C. A has a vertical asymptote at 1. My graph doesn't have any. It also has a horizontal asymptote at 0. My graph isn't supposed to have a horizontal asymptote. It's supposed to have an oblique one, which means I think it's C, because this would have an oblique asymptote and no vertical asymptotes. So my reasoning, it has an oblique asymptote. Why does that word have so many letters? It takes up a lot of space. And no vertical asymptotes. Okay, and our last one, we have y equals 4x squared minus 9 divided by 2x cubed minus 2. So for the vertical asymptotes, I'm going to look at the denominator. So I want to know what makes 2x cubed minus 2 equal 0. I could try to factor this, but because it only has a single x here, I can just rearrange. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides to get 2x cubed equals 2. I'm going to divide by 2 to get x cubed equals 1. And then cube root. Do I need to do plus and minus on a cube root? Nope, it's an odd numbered exponent. So it's just x equals 1, which means there is a single vertical asymptote at x equals 1. Now for the horizontal or oblique, if I compare my degrees, I notice the degree of this is 2, the degree of this is 3. So the number on top is not bigger this time. So if the number on top is bigger, it's oblique. If it's not bigger, it's horizontal. So I know not oblique. And then we could do the long division, but how many times does 2x cubed go into 4x squared? Well, 2 goes into 4 twice, but the problem is the x's. X to the power of 3 does not divide into x to the power of 2 without using negative exponents. So this goes in 0 times. It does not go in at all. So I'm just going to write y equals 0. If you're not comfortable recognizing that x cubed does not divide into x squared, you could do the long division and you would still find it goes in 0 times, and it would be y equals 0. So by default, it has to be A, but if I do check, it has a horizontal asymptote at 0 and a vertical asymptote at 1. So my last one here, the matching graph, is A. We are not just going to say that the reason is that it's the last graph left. Anytime you're writing something, you want to make sure that you're showing me your mathematical knowledge. So I don't ever want you to write that it's just process of elimination, right? I want you to give me reasons. So I'm going to say it has a vertical asymptote at x equals 1 and a horizontal, and it was the only one actually that had a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0. Okay, this has been a very long lesson so far. We still have another part to go. So you can join me in the next video for the very last part. Hopefully, there might be 2 parts of this lesson.